Hello and welcome to Community Mapping, the Missing Link during Digital Leaders Public Sector's Insights Week. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so over to you. Please share in the chat, where are you in the country, and is there a specific reason why you're interested in community mapping? Let me do the housekeeping. So, housekeeping. This is being recorded. It will be put up onto Digital Leaders so you can watch a replay that you can share with anybody in your team or anyone else that you want to share it with. Please do. Health and safety. It's an online event. So if a fire alarm goes off where you are, please you leave and the recording will be there for you later on. If you need a drink, the toilets, you know where they are. This is AirMeet that we're using, and AirMeet has a virtual lounge. So you can come and join us for a chat afterwards at a virtual table. You can also raise your hand and if you've got a question and you're happy to come to the stage. Now, with the recording, if you come and join us on stage, you will be part of the recording. Please be aware of that. But any of your questions that you put in the chat at the side, they are not seen on the recording. If you want your question to be anonymized, please put the word anonymous at the beginning so your name isn't read out. And then Amber will read those to me. Amber, I'll introduce ourselves. So I'm Jackie King. I'm the CEO and founder of If Everyone Cares CIC. And the idea of aDoddle was something I had 12 years ago, and we built it to what it is today. Amber, I will let her introduce herself, but she's my brain. She's my nudger. I'm dyslexic, so she will read me any questions or anything that you've got in the chat. Over to you, Amber, to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, I'm Amber. I work with Jackie and aDoddle as admin support. Started my journey with aDoddle in June 2021 as a Kickstart apprentice, and then my role kind of developed into what it is now, as Jackie says, supporting her day-to-day with admin tasks, emails, weekly planning, processes, the general everyday running of aDoddle. And it's great to be joining you here at Digital Leaders, and I will be passing on any questions or comments from the chat to Jackie for you.
Thank you ever so much. There will be time at the end for a Q&A, and we'll also share contact details so you can get in contact. In fact, Amber's already put it in the side. And if you stay right to the end, you'll see the end slide, which will give you my personal email address. So fantastic. Let's get started. So I've got a little bit that I'd like to just read out to you. And if I'm looking to the side, please, I apologize. I've got 3 screens. So why community mapping and why the missing link? So across the country, the importance and value of asset-based community development is high on the agenda for many organisations, both at a local, regional and national level. The combination of the pandemic and now the cost of living crisis has highlighted the urgency for a resource that helps each sector within communities to easily provide an overview of existing solutions and knowledge to aid key decision makers, supporting the development of community collaboration, links and networks, leading to the growth of more resilient communities. But also to empower people from the ground up by helping them to discover the support, opportunities and resources that they can access within their own communities, from warm spaces, walking for health, support during a crisis, resources to escape abuse, places to volunteer or connect with others, and so much more, all of which help to reduce isolation and the impact of these crisis situations. However, there is very little to be found which explains how ABCD resources are to be identified, collated, and more importantly, found by those people in our communities that need them. Many current projects that are being funded will only provide a short-time overview of the knowledge that exists at this moment, information and data which is being sought, and which is often only for the use of those who commissioned it. The data quickly goes out of date and it's often on a spreadsheet or a very simple Google map that just has pinpoints but doesn't tell you anything more about it. Often all of the effort of bringing this information together, as well as every bit of financial outlay, becomes valueless within a very short period of time, meaning that more work will need to be commissioned in the future to keep it up to date. As an example, at the end of last year, we were invited to tender for an NHS one-year project in the southeast of England with a £90,000 tender value. It was in two parts. One part we could have done and would have given them more than the Excel sheet of data that they would have wanted. The second part was actually having somebody going into the communities and talking with the people. Now, I'll be very honest, that isn't where our area of expertise is in real time. We do it around the community mapping. We could have provided them with a legacy mapping that they could continue to see, that organizations update themselves, but more about that in a little while. Looking at various organizational websites, the key element that most appear to be missing is the public facing tool, which presents up-to-date resources for people and communities so they can find the help they need or what they need when they need it. So you've got systems like Open Referral UK, but people have to have got to the point where they need to be referred. Surely it makes sense if you help people to find what exists in their communities now in real time, they may never get to crisis point where they need to be referred. So this is about common sense and making it as easy to find what is out there now by the people who need it when they need it, their family members, their work colleagues. More about that in a little while. Over the next 30 minutes, I will introduce you to aDoddle.org community mapping, how and why it evolved, some of the key things that we've learned with over 10 years of people-facing and community-centered research to get it to where it is today. Community mapping out of the box, a flexible and versatile overarching tool which connects people and communities, one click at a time, empowering people to find the right choices and opportunities for them at the right time in the right location. aDoddle community maps are available now. This is the bit that sounds a bit salesy. I don't mean it to. Ready to go and to become the missing link between communities in desperate need of help to develop their resilience. We've done the tech to enable you to focus on the outcomes that you want to achieve for your community. That's my spiel done. Promise. Now I'm going to tell you more about aDoddle. Please, please do ask any questions. Right, so we live in a digital world where we can find everything we want at the touch of a button, or do we? You could go to Google and you could stick in a search. You could ask a question, but it will only show you what it thinks you want to see, and it will come by the most popular answers to start with. But the answer that people are looking for may be on page 10 or 210. Mapping helps to bring it together and help people to search by their location. So I'm going to tell you the who. So we started doing this because in 2010, I was a trainer helping people who'd been out of work long term due to illness and disability. They were people who had slipped through the cracks of the system and had got to crisis point. Some had tried to take their own lives. Some families had split up, homes had been lost, mental health was such a huge thing, and their confidence and self-esteem was at rock bottom. And one day, one of my managers described some of my clients as no-hopers. Well, nobody is a no-hoper. I was told that they could no longer come into the courses and the training that I put on, whereas I had opened up empty seats on training courses that I had for people who had been before to come back and become peer mentors, therefore increasing their confidence and self-esteem and going back over what we had already done, helping it to become part of who they were. It was helping them to rediscover who they were before their situation had got to where they were. What we saw was that actually it was easier to go on Google Maps and find a hotel or restaurant and make an informed decision than it was to find what existed, help and support or resource-wise, within their community. And then in 2012, Richard Branson set a challenge to screw business as usual, and he wanted ideas for things that could have huge social impact on people, communities, and ideas around the world. And our idea for a community map was voted third from ideas from around the world in a 4-month campaign. So we were actually really proud of that. We actually had contact from people in other countries saying, when you've done it in the UK, please, we want to do it in our country as well. So there is a hidden power within every single community. Facts and figures to think about. A report by Eden Project Communities back in 2016 showed that disconnected communities were costing the country £32 billion a year. In the same year, a report by Joseph Rowntree Foundation showed that poverty was costing £78 billion a year. I bet if they were to redo that now, it is probably a higher figure. There are over 150,000 charities and hundreds of thousands more community groups and organisations that support people in communities. And at the same time, there are increased levels of suicide, loneliness, and food poverty. So, how did we go about it? We started from the ground up with the people in the communities because that is where the idea of this mapping came from seeing the impact of people not being able to find information themselves and having to go to doctors and be on waiting lists or being in the job centre or the housing benefit office and people being able saying to them, well, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do and I don't know of anywhere, or giving them an idea of somewhere and finding out that that organisation had closed down because the funding had gone. So people were being given out of date information. We listened, we heard, we listened again, we iterated, we launched the first version of our maps in January 2016, and we have been iterating and developing since then. And now it is the UK's first network of area-based community maps, meaning you could be on a map down in Cornwall, you could scroll on that same map up to Scotland, refresh the page and see what is there. So if you've got a relative somewhere in the world, in the country, you can go to that area as well. There are no borders. During the pandemic, we reflected and we rebuilt. Multiple communities and multiple benefits equals huge potential impact. We had a few things that were really key in our research. It was really important to keep it lean. We interviewed organisations who had tried mapping and had failed, where they had closed it down. We realised that unless you kept the system lean, where there was not a huge amount of work for any one person or any one organisation, it was going to be expensive, time heavy, and actually the information would be a bit disjointed. So therefore, people in the communities, what they said to us was, we find a website, we don't know where to look on it if we're lucky enough to have found it. So every profile on our maps is a standard format. Once you have been to one profile, two profiles, you will then know where to go on that page. Each profile is like a miniature website. You will know where to go to find the information you are looking for. Filters. Many directories that are there within communities, people who go onto the directory have to answer a number of questions. Is it about mental health? Is it about homelessness? Is it that? And through those algorithms, it chooses what the people see. And it may be there was something else that would have helped that person because everybody's journey is unique to them. So we don't automatically put filters on. People can choose to use filters through our maps if they want to. They can even use tag words. They can choose, but it is their choice. Otherwise, they can actually see what is in their community. They can hone it in on a radius of 5 miles, 10 miles, depending on how much, how far can they travel? If they can only travel in that 5-mile radius, then only show them the things that are in that 5-mile radius. So those are some of the things that we learned. A few more. Traffic light system. I mentioned just now about if something was out of date. aDoddle is the only one that we have discovered. It doesn't mean there isn't one out there that uses a unique traffic light system on our maps. If a pinpoint on the map is green, it means it has been updated by the organisation in the last 6 months, meaning that people can have more trust in the information that is there, that it is going to be accurate. Amber is 6 to 12 months and red is over 12 months. So point 5 is there are 5 key things that people want to know. They do not want to know who founded it, which is what I've just told you really about us. You didn't really want to know that, but it's who they help, how they help, the difference they make, the help they need, and how to get in contact with them. Those are the most important things for people to know. So we encourage organizations when they put their profiles on the map to share those 5 things. You find they get more interaction, more contacts, but also we in our research heard many people said that they didn't have the confidence to contact organizations, but actually they would be given hope by reading the story that there was an organizer out there who was prepared and willing to help. Just that knowledge helped them. Sorry, I'm going to cough. I'm talking too much already. So please do ask some questions. Right, let's go to the next one. This is just a quote, and it was from Joe Cox, the MP. I will not live in a country where thousands of people are living lonely lives forgotten by the rest of us. Let's think about this. Community mapping will help people to find the places where they can connect with others in their community. And if the organizations have told the story of who they help, how they help, the difference they make, they are inviting those people to get in contact with them. Community mapping is about empowering people, helping them to have the choice, helping them to find the help, have the choice, find volunteering opportunities, reduce isolation, and allowing it to be a personal journey that is not decided by an algorithm or AI. So, decisions for people are easier when they can see the whole picture. If you look at the pictures on the left, I'm being dyslexic and suddenly panicking that I've said that right. If you look at the pictures on the left, it's hard to make out what they are. But when you look on the right, you can easily see what it is. So let's think about community mapping helps to bring that picture together for people to see what is there in their community. So many people live in an area, but they don't do their life in an area because they don't know what is happening and going on. Community mapping enables them to find those things. Excuse me again. Community mapping is about where the same data can help multiple sectors. It can help with crisis, isolation, volunteering, collaboration, social prescribing, resource mapping, so the asset-based community development. It can help key decision makers, including the police, National Health Service, social services, you name it. It can help them to make key decisions because they can see what exists in their community. Imagine if we had had this up and running in a bigger way at the point of the first lockdowns. That cough's going to stay. I'm so sorry. So we're the UK's first network helping people to find where they can get where they can find help, where they can give help, connect with others, collaborate and support. So it's not just about the people finding those things, but imagine organizations finding each other so they can find where they can collaborate. And we've also heard from local businesses who want to support local organizations. They can then find them as well. Amber, can I just ask if you can have a look to see if there are any questions? While I have a quick drink to see if I can get rid of the tickle.
Yeah, that's fine. We haven't got any questions yet, but hello to Emma, to Michelle, hello to Keith, Sarah's at the top there. Lots of people have been putting in the chat where they are and why they're joining, which is lovely. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for that breather. Every single profile is like a miniature website. It even has different tabs and a page. We even then hide the aDoddle header so that it's all about the organization. They can semi-brand it. It's a standard profile layout. They can use it in place of a website, and we encourage them to share the 5 key things. It is a map out of the box. Our maps can be dropped into any website, anywhere. Okay, we can even do maps for specific things. So, for example, working with the Devon Local Nature Partnership, they have got a map that shows environmental projects, helping them to what's the word I'm looking for? It's about the United Nations SDGs, where environment's a key thing. And they're not the only organisation that we're working with. We've just done one recently with West Berkshire. We started doing a map for them. They wanted, it's their Community Live Connected map. We started doing a map with them because they didn't want to lose the organisations and the amazing community spirit that came about through the pandemic. So they started off with one map. They then chose they wanted another map for environmental projects. And they've now got a third map, which shows where all the warm spaces, welcome places are in their community. Another example is down in Plymouth. Plymouth Food Aid wanted to show where all the food aid organisations were, so people knew where they could get help in a crisis. So the maps can be done for any purpose and any reason, because communities are stronger when they work together and when people can find the information that they need. So, area-based community maps. We started off with one main UK map, and I said that we had built everything based on listening to feedback. The more feedback that we got, the more we realised people wanted a map for their community or their area. So there are 12 regions across the UK. We've identified... It's the biggest nightmare for somebody, isn't it? We've identified over 400 key areas across the country where we would like to have maps. Organisations add their details just once, and then people can find them from anywhere in the country. But there is the opportunity for an organisation. So say an organisation is based in one part of the country, say it's based in the southeast, but they actually have branches or they have the ability to serve people in other areas across the country as well. We have the ability for that master profile to be duplicated with a few clicks of a button, and it can be then show up in other parts of the country as well, meaning it only has to be put on once. It can be duplicated across other areas of the country. And when they update the master profile, it updates all of the ones that are attached that are duplicated. Okay. There are multiple access points. If there is just, I was at the Digital Leaders Conference in London yesterday, an amazing organisation there, but there is one entrance point for people to find them, yet they do work across the whole of the country. So if people don't find that one entrance point, they won't find them. So imagine if they had a profile for the work that they had in all of the areas across the country. That would mean they would have had more chance of being found by the people who needed them and the people that they could serve. So there are oh no, there are maps and multiple access point. We've got 98 area maps at the moment. We've got a number of bespoke maps that we've worked with, for example, Plymouth Food Aid, Volunteer Action North Somerset, West Berkshire Council. We do work with Bournemouth University. Every map can be dropped into an existing website, and you can choose which information you show. Is it just for homelessness, food aid, etc.? So you have that flexibility with the maps. You can even use the maps within a back end for, say, something like social prescribing. Community mapping to us is actually a healthier world for both people and planet, because each community, each person, each action is part of the solution. But it's only part of the solution if people can find it and become a part of it. So next slide. So small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. So imagine every community map, every profile that is added to the map helps to connect people with what exists in the community. So now, some of these figures on here may need to change. This is about 18 months old. But we did a bit of research looking at what I worked with people who had been out of work. So that's why we use this one. So people have been out of work long term. The average cost across the country to the council and to the national government and everything else, with national insurance and tax not being paid and everything else, is £15,401 per person. So let's just imagine that a council decided they wanted a map, and they wanted a map for their area. They pay an annual license fee, which is way less than that figure. Okay, way, way less than that figure. If they got just one person back into work in that area because they found help and support, they would have covered their year's cost. They would then be saving time when they were in the housing benefits section and somebody came in and they were asking for help and support. They could point them to their community map, so that that person has empowered to find the help that exists there, see all the data and information. So they're saving time on the customer services. They're making it as a resource that's there for their community. They're helping to build a stronger, more connected and more resilient community. One of the things that we want to do longer term is that actually, if they've got an area map, is, say, for example, they were in a situation where they'd had a flood or a crisis in their area, that we make the homepage of their specific area map theirs, that they can access, so that they can make any updates on the homepage, sharing crucial information that's needed. Because we're great at mapping, but we don't know your community. You know your community. So if you've got the ability to have your map in that site, but then you've got the ability to change and make any updates, and the people in your community know that this is the place to come to. Imagine when Grenfell was there, if this had been there, people could have seen where there was help, where they needed help, where they could come and give help, where the support was. You could have had everything in one place. The same is true for many other things within communities. So it's aDoddle to get involved. It's aDoddle for people to add a profile. Okay, it really is. It's totally free for charities, community groups, and organisations. We are funded through the licence fees and the projects that we do with external organisations where they want mapping. You can spread the word. You could sponsor a map. If you're a business, if you're an organisation and you want to sponsor a map, every single one of our area maps can be sponsored. Or if you want a bespoke map that is sponsored for you and your company, we've spoken to larger organisations where they have felt that it would be beneficial to actually have a map that is internal for their company and their organisation for two reasons. One, because they support their staff to do 3 days of volunteering. They get paid, the staff get paid by the company to go and do X number of days a year volunteering. The map helps their staff to find the volunteers, the places to volunteer. But also, then the map becomes known about within the bigger organisation. And if one of their staff is actually struggling themselves, they've got a chance of finding help and support. So it could potentially reduce the number of sick days that a company has. So it's very cost effective. So you could become a map partner. You could add a map to your website. Grant funders, please make it part of your grant funding process. I am really, I can't say it strongly enough. If you made it a part of your grant funding process that somebody who was applying for funding from you had to create a profile on the map as part of the process, all you are doing is you are adding one sentence into your application form and you are helping to build this resource in your community. And I'm pretty certain that we could, tech wise, we haven't done it yet, but we could, tech wise, give those people who you then give funding to a badge on their profile that shows you've helped fund them. So it's something there. I'm sure that if you wanted something like that, we could create the tech to do it. It's great for councils, NHS, police. Let's talk about how maps can help people and save money at the same time. So also for organizations that are needing to do things to do with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I said that wrong, I think. Yeah, Sustainable Development Goals. Community mapping actually helps with a number of these things. It would help with the poverty, no hunger through food maps, good health with showing people how they can get out and join community groups and go for walks in the community or do local tree planting or beach cleans or something like that. Education for families where I had this experience myself with my daughter. She really struggled with school and anxiety and everything else. But you can bet your bottom dollar there are community groups out there that will support those young people. Gender equality, it helps. So there are so many things here that are part of the UN SDGs that community mapping can help with. So we are coming down towards the end. And so alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. And partnerships where two or more organizations work together. They take the best of what they do, what they know, and together that they can create exponential. I can't see part of it because I've got a little tag underneath there. Drat. I've got one more thing I want to read before I'm going to stop this, and then I'd like to open the floor for questions. Um, Yesterday, as I said, I was up in London at Digital Leaders at their conference. And two things came to me through that is that AI and incredible tools such as ChatGPT are being hailed as the new go-to innovations in technology. And they are. However, there's a downside to them. People see what technology thinks they want to see, and it weeds out everything else. aDoddle's map and the content on them are not based on people only seeing results if AI or an algorithm has chosen it for them. The maps give everyone the opportunity to see what is in their area and make a personal choice themselves. Yes, people can choose to use filters if they want to. That is their choice and not one that is forced on them. Our methodology provides options that they may not have otherwise seen. We believe that it's about user experience, user choice, user empowerment, user control. aDoddle maps provide an ease of access to data and information in a way that helps to connect people to the communities that they live in, empower them to find and access services, opportunities, and resources that will improve their quality of life, all at the same time as supporting the growth of more connected and resilient communities. That's the end of me talking. I would love to answer some questions. I really would. So that's my contact details. Please take that. And in a second, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see Amber and myself better. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Some of the questions that we've had in the past while we're waiting is how much does it cost for an organisation to put their profile on the map? It doesn't cost them anything. All we ask in return is that they tell their story of those 5 key things: who they help, how they help, the difference they make, the help they need, and how people get in contact. We also ask that they go in once every 6 months to check the information is still correct and accurate. They click save once and it resets we send out automatic emails, but it will reset their traffic light to green for the next 6 months. Now, oh, right.
Can you see that? I'll read it out for you. So Nova has asked, do organisations ever ask not to be a part of the map? And if so, why might that be?
Okay, it's a really interesting one. Organisations choose whether they put themselves on the map in the first place. We don't choose. The organisation takes the responsibility, and they've made that choice already to go on the map. Now, I will say we actually had our first email just in the last 7 days, actually, of an organisation who had put their profile on the map and has said that they're not sure that they've seen any benefit from being on the map. They've been on for 6 months. They hadn't completed the profile totally, which does make a difference as to how much time somebody has been on there. But actually, what I would say to that organisation or any other organisation, it's not necessarily what they see, it's what the person who is looking for that help. And that organisation was actually based around LGBT and in a very rural part of the country. Now, to me, if somebody was to go on and find their profile and just know that that organisation exists, it may just make a difference in their day. We have heard from so many people who were feeling so lost, quite a few who were feeling as though they may make a decision to end their own life because they felt so lost and everything felt so hopeless, who have said to us that they have found information, they have seen an organisation in the dark hours when they were feeling at their lowest, and that just knowing that organisation was there has given them the courage to get through to morning, to get through to that next bit. And the fact that they've let us know that, they've let us know that. The organisation may never know that their profile was seen in that way and helped somebody. That is, but yeah, to answer your question, it's not, we've had one person in the time that we've done it of 3,000 organisations that are on the map to date that has asked about removing their profile. And that's fine. That's no problem. We don't mind that. But that's one of the 3,000. That's how many people might have seen that. I'm sad that they're going to come off the map because I feel sad for the people in that community who don't find it. Yeah, so let's think about some other questions. Is there anything?
Nova's just said, thanks, Jackie, that's so powerful. Another one, how do you identify organisations to invite to be on the map?
Oh, okay. Right, fantastic. So charities, community groups, organisations. We do actually have some social enterprises that are on there as well. So one of the things at the beginning, when we very first started, we only wanted to put on every service that was totally free because we thought that was the right way to do it. But then actually what we realized was that, and I'll give you an example of somebody thinking that one organisation on the map wasn't relevant to be on there, and I'll tell you why it was. So we thought only the free ones. But actually, there are people out there in our communities who are struggling, who are in crisis and whatever else, who actually do have the funds to be able to pay for a service. And if we are only showing the totally free services, that means that we are funneling all the people who need that service, who could potentially pay, into the free service, which may take it away for somebody who doesn't have the funding to pay for it. So actually, you can search for things that are free or donation appreciated or paid. So If we have some of the paid services on as well, that reduces the pull on the services that are totally free. And quite often the paid services then support some of they might do 3 people who are paid and then give 1 free. So there is an element of that. But it is about, if something is purely a business, then to be quite honest, go and put a profile on the Community Pledge, which is our sister map, which is for businesses who want to support their community. And they will then pay an annual membership fee for going on the map, which is only £350 a year. So it's not a big amount of money. But actually then they pay on there, and then come to us if they've got a paid membership on there and say, can we also put one on here? But please focus it on the difference that it is there. It's not a selling platform. aDoddle just isn't about, a business seeing this is a selling opportunity. This is a platform that is about making a difference in people's lives and having that impact. One of the big services that we found that there is a huge pull on, and where people can afford to pay at times, is ones around neurodiversity, autism, ADHD, the number of families that are struggling because the services for them within the National Health, it just doesn't exist for them to help them when they really need it. And the waiting list, if you've got a 2-3 year waiting list for something, but you've got a child who is in desperate need now. So actually some of the services like that, and we had a family recently who found a paid for service, but that made a huge difference to them and how they were handling everything for their child in everyday life. So I think it is about thinking about things. Now, if it's a knit and natter grouper, that's valuable. If it's a photography group, a history group, if it's any of those things, that's valuable. That's somewhere people can connect, or they can go and volunteer and make a difference, because not everybody needs help. Sometimes they need connection, and that connection could be through volunteering. So let's think about that. So I'm going to give you a story. We were doing some work with a mental health organisation down here in the southwest. I'm based down in Dawlish in Devon. And they said to us, Jackie, I'm not sure that the Blue Cross cats should be on our map. And I luckily had a story that I could tell them about somebody that I knew that I had spoken to, who basically they struggled with going out. They had some issues in their own life. They didn't like being around people very much. They didn't like going out very much. They found an opportunity to volunteer at Blue Cross Cats. So it helped them to get out, removing that isolation. They sat in the cages with the cats and helped the cats to stay acclimatized to human touch. Over time, they met somebody who was sat in the next cage. They didn't even need to look at each other because they were just there looking after the cat. But they started talking. Then that changes to going for a coffee and going for a walk. And the last time I spoke to that person was back in employment. So you tell me, who are we to decide which organization is right or wrong? Does that make sense? We put on all these things that we perceive as to what is beneficial. But they're only our thoughts. They're not what the person in the community is. Every person is unique and individual. They are. I
Lovely.
think there's another question there.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's one from Keith, who's put it in the Q&A box. He says, what measures are in place to ensure that the information being provided is accurate?
Okay, so when we first started looking into this, we got support from DLA Piper and Atos as to what should be the model that we did for this. And they said that we should use the eBay model, which is where the community can let us know if there is something that isn't right, that isn't accurate. Because actually, insurance-wise, we take on that big part if we say that we are checking every bit. So they are self-publishing the information about their organisations. However, let me come back to that. I get a notification every time somebody clicks save on their profile. And at this point in time, what I do is I go in and I do a double check. New organizations that are put up, they don't go live on the map for 48 hours. Again, I go and double check before anything goes live on the platform. Is it something? And I would remove it. To date, we have never had to remove a profile. Everybody has had the right intentions. We know that as the platform grows, there is the chance that there will be somebody who decides that they want to do that. We will then blacklist an IP. We will remove it. But it's definitely about community feedback. and doing it in that way. And that was done for legal reasons as to why we did it.
Nice, yeah. Thanks, Keith. And then Sarah's also put, is it possible to have someone act as a community aggregator, I think it says, if smaller charities don't have the confidence to use the service themselves?
Oh, so totally. Again, I said we built everything based on user feedback and everything else. So, for example, we've got a number of ways that they can do that. You can have somebody who creates the profiles for the organizations with their permission, of course, and they can then give over the control of that profile to that organization. But they can also remain as somebody who has permissions to edit it. Yes, so the organization, so a community aggregator can set the profile up, okay, then hand the control over to the organization, but remain as somebody who has permissions to edit it. So, as an example as to where we've done that, the Food Aid map down in Plymouth, they had a community aggregator that set it up in the first place and handed the profiles over. We have a full tech system for handing profiles over. So you add the email address, they have to accept it and everything else before it's done. And there is a complete track record of those transactions between those people and those organizations. We also, so when they'd handed them over, they then found that the organizations lost their passwords and different bits and pieces and struggled with time to be able to go in and keep their pinpoint green. So we created another bit of tech, which means that you can give different permissions to people to manage different parts of the profile. And so they now have a community person down in Plymouth who goes in, and when they see that profiles are ready to go amber, they go in, they check the information because they know those organizations, they work with them, they know them, they know the information is accurate, they check it, they make any updates, and then they click save and they set it back to green. So we have done all of that. It is all part of a tech solution within the mapping. We really have, in fact, I'm really proud of what we've built and what we've developed as a tool. It is incredibly user-friendly. I hope that answers it. Have I answered it enough, or have you got any more questions? Because I'm very aware it said it was a 45-minute presentation. I'm happy to be here and answer questions. If nobody's got any in the chat now, I will go out to the tables and answer any questions there. And by the way, Nova, it was a pleasure to meet you yesterday in London.
Yes, Sarah's just put, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. I'm just going to pop in the chat the URL for aDoddle.org, so if people want to check out the maps, they can do.
Please do. The maps are really comprehensive. What you see on the top is a bit like the tip of an iceberg. Okay, you're seeing 10% of what it is. 90% of the capability of what our maps can do is actually hidden behind the surface. So if you have any questions, any at all, just ask, get in contact, come and jump on the table. Cool. Right, Amber, I think I've seen that there's another one there that's just come in.
There's a couple. So yeah, Nova answered you saying, you two, Jackie, it'd be great to chat sometimes one-to-one. I'll email you to set up a call. Keith has put, I know that primary care, GPs, ICB, etc. create directories of services for mapping of available services to patients, etc. Do you engage with this sector to facilitate, accelerate your digital mapping capabilities?
We would like to. We would like to find a pilot project to actually do and to work with that. I think it's really vital. We've built the tech in a way that it can be used and the maps can be put on an internal system. You invite or you add those organizations, you just see the ones that you have, verified that your social prescribers can actually share, that you've done that double checking. But also you can then still point people to the main aDoddle website for that area or the main UK one or whatever else. So you can highlight the organizations you can signpost them to through the back end and your map that's in your back end system. And then you can say to them, but look, here's this other resource you might like to go to see what you can find. So if anybody wants any questions, we would love to do a pilot project with GP NHS around that. Sarah, I can just see that you said you were going. Thank you so much. But are there any other questions here? Now, Amber, anything there?
No, not that I can see anymore at the moment.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a huge thank you so that we're only stopping 3 minutes late. A huge thank you to all of you for joining us today. Please remember that you can see a replay of this through Digital Leaders. We will also put it on our YouTube channel, and we will also put a link on our events and workshops page. Oh, one thing I haven't told you all about. Oh my goodness. We only launched it fairly recently. Just as a quick end, we've just recently created a guides hub to go with aDoddle that walks people through step by step, with visual and bullet points talking them through the different things that they can do with the maps. It is a growing resource. We will be adding videos to that, hopefully in the relatively near future. We have got other bits of tech. We've also just launched an element that we can do events, as in events on the map. So it is a slightly different profile that will then show people where events are happening. So say for the coronation, the great get together, the big lunch, things like that. And the second that the date that the event has happened and it's over, it will be removed from the map. So actually, if you want to create maps around events and things like that, we've got that ability to do that as well. We would also like to add things like defibrillators and where they are across the country and things like that. So there are many different ways that these maps can be used, and we'd love to work with any of you. Please do get in contact. I'm going to say thank you now. There's more coming all the time. So if you've seen this one and you want to come to the next Digital Leaders talk, do. I'm a regular speaker for them. If we can help in any way, please do. Remember, this is the UK's first connected resource. So if you are living in one part of the country and you want to do something with us, anything that goes onto your map, if it's a public map, will then be available for other people from other parts of the country. Let's do this together. Let's work together. Thank you so much. Amber and I will jump out onto the table for the next 10 minutes to answer any other questions. Do get in contact. Thank you very much. And this is the end of If Everyone Cares and aDoddle's Digital Leaders Public Insights Week talk. Thank you.
Thank you.